First thing I would like to just say is thank you to my team, Randall, Gergely, Christoph, Peter, Jake. This is one of the best teams I've ever worked with in my professional life, and it's made the last couple of years a real pleasure. And without them and their support, you guys wouldn't be here today. So they've really done a lot, not just to support what we're doing at Hypothesis, but really to put energy into the community. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that. So I want to just ask, before I get started, just ask a quick question of us all, which is, why did the web succeed? Because I think it has, beyond the wildest dreams of even the people that thought about it. So I'll offer a few quick thoughts, because I think it really applies to what we're doing here today and to trying to get annotation deployed as this new crazy mesh across human knowledge. Other than the fact that it was a great idea, one key thing is how extraordinarily interoperable it is. So you can pull up any web page in any browser, pretty much, and look at it, any modern browser. So you don't have to use a different piece of software to go to Nike's website or to some other random website. Use one piece of software and you can look at everything. That's pretty amazing. It's decentralized, so no one person has the franchise on the web. There's millions of sites, tons of major services. Those are interoperable, oftentimes on the same page. So we're pulling from 20 different sites and integrating them in real time instantaneously every time we click on every web page. That's pretty amazing. I think annotation could learn a lot from that. And the third reason is because it's open source. Most of the web is on and runs on open source software. That doesn't mean that there aren't proprietary pieces of code and that there isn't room for those. I think there's a room for those in annotation. But let's try to work together to make sure that as much of what we're building together is as open as it can possibly be and as interoperable as it can be. So let me also try to explain a few of the goals of what we're trying to do at Hypothesis, because I know there's a lot of folks here that may not be super familiar with us, and let me try to explain that. The first is that if annotation succeeds as a new layer, it's going to be the people in this room, I think first, many of them, that are responsible for making that happen. People working on just really tremendous projects like Annotorious and Annotator, Peer Library, and so forth. And so our goal first and foremost is to collaborate with you guys to help bring this together. The next thing we want to do is learn about use cases as deeply as we possibly can. So that's one of the reasons for this conference, to bring the people together that are thinking through the application of annotation to the world's problems. We want to build stuff that people actually really want to use for real-world problems. We want to help work together with you to make a rich, open, extensible framework that the world can use to build applications and services. And we also want to think about user interface and actually create an example of that, a prototype, something that's pretty nice, that works for general purpose annotation across the web, and PDFs too, and to experiment with that, and to integrate it as widely as we can with the other things that people are building out there. So as part of this, one of the things that we've realized is we have raised money from a number of grants, funding institutions out there, the Sloan Foundation, the Mellon Foundation, the Knight Foundation, is that a lot of the really important work that's being done out there is being done by people like the ones in this room and by a lot of folks that are out there building the libraries that annotation uses, but also building the software that Annotation needs to integrate with if Annotation is going to integrate with the web. So we have decided to put together a fund to help to provide small flash grants on the order of 1K to 10K for developers that are working to integrate Annotation. So this funding is coming from our nonprofit funders and also from individual donors. These are no strings attached grants to individual developers working on important problems. We want to make, they don't have to be related to Hypothesis. All they have to be related to is open annotation generally. They need to be open source and freely licensed. We're going to have a simple one-page application process and a series of external judges, Rob Sanderson, Nick Stenning, Doug Sheppers, Randall Leeds, and Phil DeSen are the ones who've kind of agreed to start out reviewing these applications and helping us test this idea out to see whether or not this kind of funding can help us get some of these next generation problems solved. Like how do we get nice deep zooming support into Annotorius, or how can we provide a Google Docs plugin so that we can get annotation and selection into Google Docs just like we can in the rest of the web. So if you're interested in this, or you know somebody that might be, let us know, and we'll be putting more information out about this later. So with that, I'd just like to take a quick spin through Hypothesis and what it is that we're doing and what's new. We have a alpha prototype, which is at hypothesis/alpha if you want to try it out. And this is a JavaScript application. It's built on top of Annotator, and it's packaged right now as a bookmarklet and also as a Chrome extension. So the idea here is that you annotate the web where it is. So if, for instance, the president puts out a executive order about some interesting thing going on in the Ukraine, and there's no comment widget at the bottom of it, that you can reach into that and find some juicy thing that's important and say something about it. Probably more important than that. So you can just make those comments public. You can make them private if you want that comment to be only something that you can see. And we have a group mode that is in process now to make annotations visible only to ad hoc groups, kind of like you can in Google Docs with the sharing mode there, so that you can have a private conversation with other people on the top of a public document. You can add tags. Like that, for example, and save that, and then that annotation is stuck to that piece of text. You can turn all the annotations on the page on so that you don't have to hover over them, and make multiple statements on the same page, for instance. And these annotations are the starting point for threaded conversation. So somebody else can come along later and say something there, and so the threading goes as deep as you want. The sidebar can be expanded and collapsed here, so you can give yourself more room to have a conversation if you want. We support highlighting, so if you want to just highlight stuff on the page quickly and not have to annotate it, you can do that. Those are private by default, so because sharing just plain highlights with other folks, other than in aggregate through something like Kindle, probably doesn't make any sense. So those annotations also form a stream. They form a stream of annotations that you can look at So we hear the stream from Hypothesis, so anybody that's using the alpha prototype is here. You can see some things that I just said, some annotations that Jake was making earlier, and you can search those. So if I want to search all the annotations that were made in the New York Times anytime in the last year, I can do that, and then I get a output like this. And this is a faceted search, so I can add search terms. I can find all of the annotations that were made by Jake, for instance. So here are the ones that Jake made 4 months ago. And I'm listening now. So if Jake makes a new annotation on the New York Times right now in real time, that would show up in this stream. So that's an example of a stream interface that we've built. We think there's a lot of room to do interesting things here, and to find ways for other people to kind of build on this concept. One of the things that we've been working on hard is the ability to anchor text robustly to the web. The web is a very dynamic place. It's changing all the time. And sticking annotations to things can be tricky. So here is a blog. Here happens to be my blog. And if I make an annotation here on this this phrase, then I annotate it. And then go change the blog, the thing that I stuck to. Then how do I know how to stick that annotation back to that same text? Because that change could be actually a lot bigger than just changing one word, or I could have changed words on either side of that annotation, and I want to be able to have a kind of a robust capability to do that. So if I pull up this annotation, I can see that it's, even though it says ancient Martian, it's still able to stick to that same piece of text. So that seems very simple, but actually a really challenging problem. We're also now integrated with PDF.js. So here's a piece of legislation at the city of San Francisco. They actually do all this for the time being in PDF form. I know that Chris from OpenGov has hoping to get them to use something a little bit more modern, but with PDF.js we can annotate PDFs that are live on the web in just the same way, etc. One of the great things about being part of this community is integrating with the different components of it. So we've taken Annotorious, which is a beautiful image annotation plugin that works with Annotator, and we have added that to our work, and to the plugin, so that you can pick some part of an image and have the same kind of conversation model. So now that annotation is stuck there, I can create another one here. And then those, and then start to have conversation like that. So those are images. Another cool thing that we've just is it? Hey Randall, is it the real-time stuff? Maybe working. Is the real-time thing? Not okay. So we'll skip that one for now. So the real-time capability that we're just about to push out allows annotations that are made on the same page that you're on to populate the stream in real time as they're being made instead of having to reload the page, which is kind of the model that we've had so far. So we're trying to kind of make this pervasive across as much of the web as we can, as many formats as we can, and to bring a real-time, fine-grained, high-quality annotation experience to it. I won't steal Jake's thunder, but we've done also an integration with EPUB.js project to add annotation to their open source EPUB reader, so you can have a book like Moby Dick in your browser straight from an EPUB, and you can annotate that in kind of the same way. So that's the demo.
Do you have any plans for a sort of private archive.org or Wayback Machine so that if something you annotated 5 years ago has gone away, that you can still access it personally?
So you're talking about versioning of the web?
Yeah, so that if I annotate something, that I actually will have the full source available through all time instead of having it just go poof.
Right. So he wants to turn the microphone on. So we actually want to integrate with the Internet Archive. So they have a new API and they're now crawling the web in real time, whereas before they used the 6-month delayed feed from Alexa. And so now we can tell the Internet Archive that somebody is annotating a page every time a page is annotated. And the archive seems to be willing to sign up for getting what could be a tremendously large torrent of pull requests, basically, for the web, and to take a fresh copy of those pages every time they're annotated, so that if the annotation can't be anchored anymore because it's orphaned, because the text changed, or because the page went away, that we can actually point to the archived version of that and attach the annotation there. So we'd like to experiment with that over the next year.
See what documents have been annotated and see a higher level view of those across the web or across a domain.
Yeah, the stream is what gives us that capability. So you can sit and watch a domain, like if you're at Berkeley, you could sit and listen to anything at berkeley.edu that was being annotated in real time. Or you could do that instead of by domain, by group. So you could listen to all the annotations that are being made by a particular class, like the Introduction to Philosophy class on any course material that students were annotating.
Okay, another response here.
I would also add that just as we're trying to support development with Annotator, we also want Hypothesis and the tools we build, including our API, to be a platform for people to build on as well. So over the next couple of months, we'll be trying to improve our API, and hopefully some of these kinds of visualizations can come out of the community.
All right, we should move on to the next speaker. Thank you.